A very good evening to everybody. Shalom. I would like to just say thank you to Rabbi Shapira for having me on this program to be teaching on the Torah Portion for the week. My name is Philani Nyatsanza. I'm a student in the Shuvu, and I've been a student for the past 3 years, and I'm really excited to be sharing some thoughts all the way from here in Africa. Africa has been going through a revival as we have been engaging and committing ourselves to the Shuvu. And recently, Rabbi Shapira launched the Uri program, which is led by Mrs. Masiwa, and she's the president, and they have many students from Africa who are really keen to be students on the Shuvu, students of Messianic Judaism, learning about the Jewishness of their faith and the Jewish Messiah. And they have embraced it wholeheartedly and are excited to be walking on this journey with Rabbi Shapira. So I want to encourage you, if you haven't heard about the Uri, visit our website and you will be able to see all the things that we are doing, and perhaps you may actually join us as a student. It's an exciting program where they're looking at various lessons that Rabbi Shapira has prepared for everybody. There are lots of teaching from More Matan, Pastor Matt McKeon, and he's also done quite a lot of work to really encourage, build, strengthen, and give a revelation of the truths that are ingrained in the Torah and in the word that Hashem has prepared for us. So tonight, I'm going to look today at the Bereshit, and the portion I'm going to read from is from Genesis chapter 1, and I'm going to be looking at up to chapter 6 and verse 8, and just put some thoughts out there that I have picked up as I've been reading the Torah portion. And hopefully they can encourage you, they can challenge you, they can just make a path clear for you to see what Hashem had in mind right there in the beginning. And of course, many of you would know that the word Bereshit can mean the beginning, or the start, or the head of all things. And this word Bereshit is the one that forms, or where the word Genesis comes from, as they were translating the text, which means birth or origin from. But what we see in Bereshit is the creativity of Hashem, the creativity of his mind, his thoughts, his ideas, and what he intended what we now see to be. He created the universe out of nothing. And in Hebrew, they have a word bara, which gives us an indicator that out of nothing came what is. And so in this portion today, we are starting a new year. We are excited at the beginning of the new year. And it's exciting to start in Bereshit, because that's where the head of all things is. And that's where the beginning is. So what a joy to start in the beginning and begin to walk a journey with Hashem, seeing what he has already prepared, because he's already gone before us. So he knows what is ahead of us. And here we are today, starting in Bereshit. And the very first words of Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1, tell us that in the beginning, and that's a powerful statement in itself, a powerful statement, that in the beginning. And as we read about it in the beginning, we begin to see that the beginning of all things begins with God. The Torah begins with God's work of creation. And one of the exciting things that I see, I don't know if you see it when we're reading, is that there wasn't chaos. It wasn't haphazard. It wasn't random. everything we see right from chapter 1 describes a very orderly process, a very defined manner of doing things. We hear that when Hashem looked, there was chaos. There was nothing. And then out of that, he begins to intentionally put everything in its place. And that's an exciting prospect as we read from Genesis chapter 1, going on to Genesis chapter 6. We see the creations of the heavens and the earth, the creation of light, the creation of animals in water, on land, the creation of different seeds, plants, the creation of the light, the creation of the very breath that we are breathing. And it's all done in order, in a process. It just doesn't happen, but he speaks it into being. And he speaks into being that which he had contemplated, that which he had thought about, that which he had set in mind, what he wanted to see. And then he begins to speak step by step. And as we come to chapter 2, we see, the crowning achievement, or the crowning glory, or the beauty, or the majestic creation of God, as on the 6th day, God introduces mankind. And we see how he creates them in his image, male and female. And we begin to experience the beauty of the physical world that God had created. And it keeps telling us that after he had created something, Hashem says, this is beautiful. And I believe he was appreciating that which was in his mind, that which he had put together in his mind, and now that it was, and he was looking at it, and he looked at the image in his mind, and what was now manifest, and there was satisfaction at the beauty. And every detail of the planet as we see it today was designed in order. Nothing was out of place. Nothing was lost. Nothing was chaotic. Nothing was harmful, because he said, this is beautiful. So we then see man is created first, but excitingly, he is made complete by the creation of woman, which means woman was in man, because it says God out of Adam took a rib and started putting together a woman. And as we come to the end of the parasha, in summary, we see that man fell and chaos comes in. Chaos reigns because they couldn't control their desires, their feelings, their emotions, the things that they wanted. And as we jump onto chapter 3, we begin to see the description of the deception and how Satan came and deceived both Adam and Eve to eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And then later they turn on one another and they begin to blame each other. And that's exactly what we see. So from Genesis chapter 1, where we see God creating systematically, in order, a process that is orderly. He creates the heavens and the earth. He creates the seas. He creates the animals. He creates all the things that we now know to be as part of the universe. Both unseen and unseen. He created them. But I'm excited to say, when he was creating them, there was order. And in that order, he looked back and he said, this is beautiful. And then we jump to chapter 2, we see him concluding it by the creation of man. But at the end of chapter 2, we see man falling. being deceived and moving away from that which was perfect, that which was good, that which was in order, and he brings in chaos by disobedience. And that disobedience just came out of an inward dissatisfaction. Oh man, because they had everything that they needed, they had all that they required, they had more than enough to eat. I don't think they had to fast yet. Fasting hadn't been introduced yet. But they couldn't control their desires. And that's what led to the fall. And then as we move on to chapter 3, we begin to see the description of that deception, of how it happened. And how then men turn on each other. And we, at that stage, even as we are beginning the year, what God has created is great. It's perfect. It's good. And we can take that understanding that for our lives, what God has created for us is great. It's perfect. The plans that Hashem has for each and every one of us are orderly. They are in order. They are perfect. But when we show ourselves to be dissatisfied and are not content with what Hashem has given us, we are learning in chapter 2 and chapter 3 of Bereshit that it brings about dissatisfaction. It brings about discontentment, where you are not satisfied with that which Hashem has given. And you know, it may not be things outwardly. It may be a mental image inside you. It may be the skin color that you have. It may be your height. It may be your weight. It may be your voice. It may be your background. If you do not check all those systems, all those things and thoughts, guess what? You're going to get to a stage of dissatisfaction, which is where Eve and Adam were. When the enemy came, he deceived them by making them think they didn't have everything that they needed. That's all he did. Just brought about dissatisfaction, that there's more. And yet they knew all that God wanted for them. They enjoyed all that Hashem wanted for them. They were filled with all that Hashem wanted for them. But Satan said, no, there is more. And he lied to them, because there wasn't more. Hashem had given them all that they wanted. And we even see it in their children. When Cain and Abel bring an offering out of faith, in response to their relationship with Hashem, Abel gives an offering that pleases Hashem. Cain gives an offering that doesn't please Hashem. What does he do? He immediately feels discontented, going back again to the lies of the serpent, who made Eve and Adam feel discontented by what Hashem had prepared for them. He visits Cain again and fills him with jealousy. And his offering does not honor God. And in turn, he turns on his brother and kills him. And consequently, Cain is banished and he has to wander around the earth. I believe that that happens to a lot of us when we are discontented. We fall into sin, and guess what sin does to us? It alienates us from Hashem. It removes us from a relationship with Hashem. And when it removes us from a relationship, we are lost. We are wandering in the earth. And we probably cause more harm, more hurt, more destruction, because we are away from Him who created everything. We are away from Him who began everything. We are away from Him who is the head of everything, and that is Hashem. And so, my friends, tonight, let's think about it carefully as we go through Bereshit, as we go through Genesis. We see in chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, that God was very purposeful in everything that he did. He was not random. He was not pushed by anybody. He was not under any compulsion, but he had purpose. For me, it then gives me an opportunity to think that as we begin, as we are at the head of the year, we need to purpose the rest of the year. From today, make today your time to purpose the rest of the year, the rest of the seasons, the rest of the time. I am reminded of the words of one of our apostles who says, teach us to number our days. That is having purpose in life. So we see in Genesis that there is a purposing that is taking place. We also see that we have an opportunity to make decisions. Adam and Eve had a will. God gave them the chance, the opportunity to make decisions. And they made decisions. And the decisions that we make, no matter how small, how big, how trivial, guess what? Will affect the rest of the paths that we walk in life. That's what we see. So God has a purpose. He plans things in order. You and I make decisions every single day. You know, the minute you wake up, it's a decision to wake up. You can choose to stay in bed and lie in bed, but you choose to get up, prepare yourself, and begin for the day. And not only do you make a decision for the day, but you make a decision about tomorrow. You make a decision about next week. You make a decision about next year. You make a decision about how the rest of the year is going to pan out. It's important to do that, because then we begin to become like Hashem in being purposeful with our lives. So we go to the beginning. He shows us the way, and he's the head of all things. We begin to walk in his path. So God is purposeful. We make decisions every day, and those decisions that we make influence how our life turns out, how we influence other people, how we affect other people, how we build or destroy other people. It's all about decisions. And then we see the death of Cain, of Abel through Cain. And what does that show us? The importance of human life. The lesson we draw out from that whole situation is when Cain slays his brother, God says, your brother's blood cried out to me. God was moved. God was hurt. Human life is important to God. So as you and I interact with each other, let us have an understanding that human life is important. And that's why I love the vision of the Shuvu. To bring restoration, to bring unity, to bring peace, to bring oneness, to build the nations and establish the kingdom of Hashem as he has decided to do it. And guess how he's building us? Through you and through me. And that's why our lives are very important. Those are incredible lessons that we begin to learn as we read in Genesis chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. And as we read it, we also see how Adam had to make decisions, Eve had to make decisions, Abel had to make decisions, Cain had to make decisions. We make decisions every single day. Let us be conscious of the decisions that we're making. Let us be conscious of the choices that we're making on a daily basis, because they are absolutely important and fundamental to the outcome of the life that God has given us. So in Genesis, we see that the Torah is describing to us that the first human beings, the people who were there, our forefathers, Adam and Eve, were God's purposed creation. God thought about it. God brooded on this thought. God dwelt on this thought, and he started creating. Because we see all the details of how he formed man. It's important to see all those details. And I believe that God just created that one man and one woman to show us the importance of one. He could have created thousands of other people. But in this sense, the story tells us of the creation of one person. So that we begin to appreciate and understand that when Hashem looks at all creation, he cares for each one. Each one. He has a purpose for each one. He has a vision for each one. He has a way for each one. There is a plan for you and me, which Hashem is God. Because that's how much attention to detail he thrives on. And so let us be warned. Anybody who destroys one life is doing great harm to Hashem. Whether it is by false teaching, whether it is by hatred, or by bitterness, or by violence, hurting one person utterly hurts Hashem. Our God, our Father, Adonai, he cares for that one life. It challenges some of our thoughts today. Some of our thinking about abortion. Some of our plans for war to annihilate other people. We are all the same in the eyes of Hashem. And this is another beautiful thing about the Shuvu. It's bringing all kinds of people together. They are Talmud from Spain, from France, from Zimbabwe, from Zambia. And they are all coming together in this one place, one platform, doing one thing. And that is desiring to learn from Hashem. And that's what we're doing. So we need to learn to respect and to value and to uphold each and every one of the lives that we interact with. And as we do that, we are reflecting the glory of Hashem on the earth. We are establishing his kingdom on the earth. Because each and every one is special in Hashem's eyes. And it's important for us to do that. We need to be mindful, as I said, about all decisions that we're making. And as I round off for tonight, I want you to seriously think about this. Number one, God was very purposeful in creating the heavens and the earth, in creating you and I, in creating animals, in creating plants, in creating that which is seen, that which is unseen, in creating everything. He was very deliberate in how he did it. Number two, let's understand that each and every one of us, Hashem places so much value. You are so important. You are the greatest thing that he wanted to make. And when he looks at your life, and when he looks at her life, he says, this is beautiful. Because he created it. And that's important for us to hold on to. And number three, let's understand that every decision we make matters. Every decision that we make matters. And so as we read from Bereshit in Genesis chapter 1 to chapter 6, I believe those are key values that we are learning. God being purposeful, humanity making choices that affect the rest, because we are all affected by the decision Adam and Eve made. It has affected all of us. But in Cain and Abel, we also begin to see how Hashem looks at each person and how each person is important, how each person is loved, how each person has great value to Hashem. If we can understand that at the beginning of the year, as we are doing, and as we are reading the Torah, it will help us to have much joy, because we begin to discover the purposes which Hashem had when he was creating the heavens and the earth, when he was creating you and I, when he was creating these beautiful tones of skin that we all have, which are all different, the different hair that we have. As we begin to see how deliberate he was, how well executed each and every one of his creation was, we begin to appreciate that even today, Hashem is very deliberate about ensuring that the sun rises on the weak, on the wicked, and on the righteous. The stars shine, the rain rains. He's very deliberate about that. And he will continue to be deliberate because there is a purpose which he is fulfilling in each and every one of those single things. Number two, let us, as we delve into the word, as we dwell on the word, as we sit and study the word, understand that you and I, decisions that we make today have great consequences. And some of those consequences are for a lifetime. Some of those consequences will affect generations to come. We've got to be aware of that. We've got to be mindful of that. And I think it actually gives us a glimpse into how when Hashem was creating, he had his focus on eternity. We tend to focus on here and now. And I think that's where we lose the plot. Let's sit in Hashem and begin to see how everything is playing into the eternal significance of each and every purpose that was designed for it. And lastly, but not least, let's remember that each and every single life is important. Hashem values every life. That's why it's important to reach out and help, reach out and save a life, reach out and give hope to a life, because Hashem sees how important that is. He sees how valuable each and every single life is. And as we look at that word again, Bereshit, to end of, it tells us not only of the creativity or the activity of the work that he was doing, but he also gives us insights into the sense that Hashem was in or within that which he was creating. My gosh, that is so exciting to close off with. To think that in every one of my cells, there is an identity mark of Hashem. In every atom, in every neutron, in every minutest of creation, inside it resides and sits the signature of the handiwork of Hashem. Everything is its identity in Hashem, because he's the creator of all things. He established all things. And as John chapter 1 verse 1 tells us, that nothing that was created is without him, but he was in everything that was created. And that's the excitement. As we dwell on his word, let's continue to think about this truth. And may God bless you. I will come back again as we move on to the next chapter and look at other details. This time we'll be looking at the life of Noah. And I'm excited at the life of Noah, because again, we go back to the glimpse of how God was very purposeful in everything that he did. And then we also see how each decision that a man makes, a woman makes, affects them. And not only affects them, it affects those around them. And maybe not only those around them, but even it affects nations. But we also see how valuable one person is to Hashem. Because then he saves one person, so that a whole generation can be saved. And from Noah, his children, we are all. So may Hashem bless you, and may Hashem keep you, and may Hashem continue to give you grace until we meet again. This is Pastor Philani Nyatsanza. I love you, and thank you for giving me this time to speak into your lives. Shalom.